Welcome to another episode of Top Lines and Tales in our series Characters in Livestock. We are this week, as always, sponsored by Harbro, manufacturers and suppliers of quality livestock nutrition. This week in our series of Characters in Livestock, we speak to a well-known face around the shows and sales, a bull buyer, past auctioneer, radio presenter, general raconteur, Liam Muir from Orkney. Liam, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, well, glad to be able to speak to you, yeah.
And Liam, I believe in your past you were an auctioneer and you farm, I'm right, at Upper Onston, would I be right? Stenness?
Aye.
A couple hundred acres. Where is that in Orkney?
We're not very far from the town of Stromness. We're right on the main Kirkle-Stromness road, but we've only been here, I've owned the farm here for about 20 odd years, but we only moved here about nearly 11 years ago. We farmed, first of all, at Midhouse in Corrigal and Harry. I got the tenancy of that on leaving the school in 1974. I was very lucky to get the tenancy from a relative.
Sure.
And we lived there for over 25 years, and then we still have the farm there. In fact, we managed to buy it a few years ago as well, and but we didn't own the house that was on the farm at Midhouse. It was rented as well, so we decided to build a new house and extend the stadium down here at Upper Onston. So that's where, and it was slightly more central for our business.
And I was mentioning that you were an auctioneer. Was that in your younger days? I don't think you still run the gavel now.
I've been involved in livestock marketing for about 42 odd years. First 12 years as an auctioneer, and the last 30 years as a livestock agent. So, and farming all the time as well, obviously.
And where would you be auctioneer then? Back in Kirkwall?
No, it was doing it at the small market in Stromness. But again, livestock industry was changing. There was more cattle going dead weight, and sheep as well. Things again were. The shipping was more centralised in Kirkwall later on too. There was a lot of different things.
We'll come on to just how Orkney is so much different than the rest of the farming on the mainland in a second. But your own farming enterprises, say you'd finish a lot of store cattle there. Would that be on local feed or grass? How does that work?
Well, we don't. We're limited by the amount of steading space we have. We keep about 40 suckler cows for sale, which is mostly Limmy Belgium crosses and a handful of pure limbs. But we buy in anything from 100 to 120 cattle in the spring, graze them and sell them in Orkney Auction Market in Kirkwall right through September and early October then you can.
Uh-huh. And you'll be feeding those on local feed because something that our listener has to recognise is because Orkney, you still have 100 odd miles of water across between you and the mainland, and a lot of feed has to come across from the mainland, making it a little bit more expensive.
We can grow spring barley here quite successfully. We grow usually between 20 and 25 acres of spring barley. The straw is as important to us as the grain, really. Uh-huh. And we usually crop corn it. And Orkney's pretty much not completely self-sufficient in grain, but pretty much so, yeah.
Okay, and as a livestock agent, as you said, we'll go on to the bull side of it, but you handle a lot of dairy calves, I think, sold off the island?
Yeah, there's still 14 dairy farms in Orkney, and we supply calves, replacement calves to farmers, both in the outer areas of Orkney and some of the outer isles, and a lot of calves goes over to Caithness and Sutherland as well. Like if somebody in Betty Hill loses a calf, they phone me and we get a calf over to them for as soon as possible to put on their cow.
Okay, it's an emergency service. And let's just, our regular listener, we have a lot of listeners in Scotland, obviously, that know where the Orkney Islands are, but let's just have a little bit of a chat about the layout of the Orkney Islands. And you'll give me the geography better, but you're obviously off the north of Scotland by a distance, and it's made up of one main island and then a number of islands. Give me a little bit more of a geography around the Orkney Islands.
Well, it's the mainland of Orkney, and then we have the South Isles, Hoy, Flotta, the islands of South Ronaldsay and Bury, and the two other smaller islands were all joined up with the Churchill barriers in the wartime, which was a big boon to South Ronaldsay and Bury and that. And then in the North Isles, there's some of the biggest and best farms in Orkney are out in the North Isles. Stronsey, Westry, Sandy. It's big farming islands, some excellent land, especially Stronsey and like Sharpensea is a very good farming island too. Like some of the other ones, smaller ones, Eaglesea, Wyre, Rousey, maybe more mixed, you can, but some very good land in Stronsey especially. Like, you can.
So we're talking what, some 20 islands maybe altogether in archipelago?
Well, it wouldn't be as many as 20 inhabited, but it's there's quite a vibrant farming population in the outer islands, you can.
And what size, the mainland, just again for our listener, what sort of size are we talking, length and width?
Oh, well, I picked up 2 calves from Berrydale in South Ronaldsay today, and from my home down to Berrydale and back was a round trip of 60 miles. Mm-hmm. So you can go from the tip of the north coast up in Berry down to South Ronaldsay would be, I suppose, nearly 40 miles, like you can.
Okay, and some of the islands, of course, would be only maybe a mile or two across and wide. Some of the inhabited ones, would they be?
Yeah, well, like if you go to Rousey, well, Rousey's only half an hour from the mainland, 25 minutes maybe. Same with Sharpensea, but if you want to go to, like, so Westry, Stronsey, Sandy, it's about an hour and 40 minutes on the Ro-Ro ferries that run back and forth. Edie would be a bit less, it would maybe be just fully an hour.
Would there be regular ferries running backwards and forwards between islands there that are geared up for the livestock market rather than the tourist market?
Well, they used to be taken in on cargo boats loose, but now they all come in on livestock trailers and lorries and that.
Okay.
And we're about an hour and a half from the mainland Scotland as well, like it, and hour and a half from Stromness, maybe just fully an hour from South Ronaldsay. There's 2 different ferries run.
And they run from Wick?
No, Scrabston, which is the port of Thurso, or Gills Bay, which is just near Chonagroats, would be the 2 terminals in Caithness that would be used.
I remember when I went up there, I went from Invergordon, which is obviously much further south, of the old cargo boat that used to go on an overnight
yeah,
ferry.
well, that bit of dust, that they finished, but most of the livestock, though, would be go on livestock containers from Kirkwall right down to Aberdeen. Most of the livestock would land up in Aberdeen. That's where our biggest customers would be based, in Aberdeenshire and Angus, right down as far as one buyer flies up to Orkney right from Nearland Lithgow, like. So.
Okay. I remember the cargo boat being just on there being a pub right next to the ferry terminal. I'm sure you've been there, and everybody go in there, get absolutely pissed, and then fall onto the boat. And there was a lot of oil rigs parked out off the side of that as well. And there was it used to be quite a hive of entertainment in that wee pub before the ferries used to sail.
Well, I never used that very much, really, to be quite honest. It was more the Stromness Scrabster or the Kirkwall Aberdeen routes would be the kind of more popular with me, really.
Okay. Let's go on to what a lot of people will mainly know you for, and that is for a bull buyer, always at the Perth bull sales, Sterling bull sales, and you'd buy a number of bulls a year for all the Orkney farms, and you've been doing that for a long while there, Liam.
Well, the first bull sale I was at doing it in the Caledonian Road in Perth would be in 1976, that October. I went down with a friend of mine, and he bought a Angus bull that day for his dad. He for Jim Garrick. He now farms down in Aberdeenshire. The next October I went doing was 1977, and I bought a pedigree short-horn heifer that day from Fraser Stock Ranches in Drimmen for 340 guineas. And I think the first bull I bought would have been about 1980-81 for a client. That was a short-horn bull from the McGowans at Fingask at Dercy and Fife, and he was 700 guineas. and I'm still buying bulls for the same farming family today yet. so it must have been all right.
So you're going to say for the same money there, but then maybe not quite, especially not short-horns. They're a bit harder to buy these days.
But But as I say, we enjoyed the bull sales. Were really something to go to when they were at Caledonian Road. You can it was all based around the middle of Perth. All the tails, B&Bs were all based around there. everybody was staying in a very small area then, and the market was tremendous, and the nightlife and the camaraderie later on was tremendous as well.
The atmosphere, fantastic. I do remember it myself. And of course, back then, Liam, the bull sales in October would all be in 1 week. Probably the February as well would all be in 1 week. So you'd have the Angus and the Shorthorns on the first day, and then moving on and finishing the Charolais on the end of the week. So you'd have pretty much every breed to go at while you were down there. So I guess that's how your orders would pick up a little bit, that you could buy them all in 1 week.
It was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The Charolais used to be Thursday.
That's right.
And you had a full week of it. And the first sales I went to, there was very few Continentals at them. There was big strings of Angus bulls and Shorthorn bulls, and there was just a few Continentals up at the top end of the market. So things have changed dramatically since then, all right.
Well, you wouldn't have missed many sales, so you'd have seen that evolution yourself of the Angus has been pushed back, and of course at one time the heyday of the Charolais and the Simmentals would take up a big part of the old market before it moved down to and just take me through I mean, you're talking 1981, so we're talking 40 years now of buying bulls there. What breeds you'd be buying bulls for clients on the island? What breeds did they favour back then, and how did that sort of move from one breed to another and back again, maybe?
Well, it was really, in that days, it was mostly Anguses or a few Shorthorns that you bought, and we started dabbling away in a few Charolais again. The Libisons and Simmentals maybe came in just slightly later, I think. But they've grown in strength since. But there's been a big resurgence in traditional breeds this last while again. I was only once in Edinburgh. I played in a dance band, and we were playing to the Orkney Shetland Association in Edinburgh, and the Hereford sale was on at that same time in October, and I went to see it. I'd never bought a bull in Edinburgh, but I was there once and saw it, kind of style. But that would have been very much when the Herefords would have been on the wane by then, I would say.
That would be Gorgie, would it?
Yes, aye. Cliff Bosamworth, aye.
Of course. And as I said, the Charolais, amongst your clients on Orkney, will maybe go on and sort of chat about some of the farmers on Orkney, and I remember being there and seeing some of the best cattle I think I've ever seen in my entire life based on Orkney, and somebody saying to me that, we've got to sell all our animals across the water, and it costs us as much money to send a good one as a bad one, so we might as well have a good one. I thought that was always a great remark. But they moved across to the Charolais as a stock sire, didn't they? I suppose mid-80s, because you'd be getting a little bit extra weight in the bulls, and there'd be a big change around about that time, the late 80s, I suppose.
Oh yes, the Hereford went out quite quickly. They were so popular, and then just suddenly it just seemed to be an year or so, a couple of years, and they just seemed to disappear entirely. And the Continentals came in, principally the Charolais, but quite a few semis came in later on too for folk breeding cows a bit. But the Orkney cowherd was pretty much Aberdeen Angus based for a long time, with a wee mix of Shorthorn in it here and there, and they nicked quite well with the first Continentals coming in again.
And as I mentioned, your livestock needs to go across the water. No abattoirs on Orkney. Maybe they would have been going back the way. So a lot of the finished animals, all the finished animals, would need to go back across to the mainland. And what kind of costs would there be to ship? We'll maybe go on to the costs in a second of bringing things in and out. But what sort of cost would it be per kilo to put a beast across to the mainland, across to Aberdeen Mart versus the local posting?
If we were shipping a beast down to Aberdeen docks at the moment, the store beast would be kind of about the £20. For a cow would be slightly more. A bull could be 60, 70 odd quid, maybe you get up to 100, maybe you can. But they charge per metre the amount of space they use in the livestock containers.
Ah, right, okay.
So maybe your smaller stirks maybe work out a wee bit cheaper and your bigger ones a bit dearer, but that's roughly the figures involved. But of course there was an abattoir in Orkney for a while. Orkney Meat ran one, and before that the council had Slaughterhouse and Stromness and one in Kirkwall just for the local needs. But unfortunately there's no abattoirs here now at all. The cattle that need to, for the butchers, have to go down to Monroe's at Dingwall and come back up again. Then they take them back up in a refrigerated lorry again.
Okay, so as I said, all your killing animals are shipped off the island and at extra cost. And would you be right in saying what I mentioned earlier on, that the quality of livestock would be better on Orkney than it would be across most of the rest of mainland UK? Is that a fair statement?
Well, I'm not wanting to brag about Orkney stock, but yes, I would say so. The Orkney farmers have always been very fussy about keeping their cow herd good. You can. They always say if they're well bred, they're half fed, and I think that's very important in Orkney here when we don't really have a big arable option, and we keep a lot of sheep in Orkney, but we're not really so sheep orientated. We're just Orkney men are pretty focused on producing good beef cattle, and that's why we get anything from 12 to 15, 16 buyers flying up to Kirkwall on a Monday, right, for all the special sales and right through the autumn to buy top quality store cattle.
Taking them back, into Scotland, probably back down in England as well, I guess. And I'd be right again in saying that you, as a bull buyer, you'll be the right man to answer this question. But generally, the Orcadians will happily pay top dollar for the bulls, and very often I've seen them outbidding the pedigree men for the bulls that they want. When they see one, they're quite happy to realise the bull is half the herd and dig deep in the pocket for them.
Oh yes, the farm have always been quite happy to pay a good price for a bull, but you must remember, you must give always. Well, any farmer always likes value for money, so you must give him as good a bull as you can at the best price possible for his pocket as well. You can.
And
you can't compromise in quality, but you like quality without having just to pay completely through the nose for it sometimes.
Exactly, as many people have said on this podcast, that you don't go to a mart and spend as much money as you can. You go to spend as least money as you can for the best quality you can get. And going on with the bulls that you'd bought, as I said, it's been your main trade, but you've always been at every bull sale that I've been at. And what number of bulls would you be buying, Liam, annually, or average annually bulls would you be buying?
Well, it would be weighing about 50 back and forth, I suppose, in the year. You can between going to Stirling, New, Carlisle, Finston, and bulls, buy quite a lot of bulls privately as well. You can, but I prefer buying them at the main breed sales. You get the best selection, and it's always the best bulls that generally goes to the main breed sales. And I think I always prefer buying them in the ring at that main breed sales.
And of course, you get a chance to see them as well at the main breed sales, paraded in the ring. And I'm sure you don't go there just to buy all the champions and the prize winners, but I've been alongside you, and it's a slightly different type of bull that you would buy that suits your customer base than maybe just everybody wants. Maybe just that thicker type, and sometimes they might not always be in the tickets.
No, it depends on your clients, who you're buying for, what type of cows he has. You can, if he has kind of maybe cement type kind of cows, he would maybe want a thicker bull. You can, and if he has a lot of Angusy kind of cows, he might need a kind of bull with a wee bit more leg under him and a bit of more length to him to complement that. You can. It depends an awful lot on your client, what type of bull you're needing for him.
Sure. And we've seen a little bit of a rise in the demand for short-horn bulls across the country, and the Angus as well, I know, but there's now finishing schemes for Morrisons and various things amongst these. Is the short-horn starting to become back more in demand? And if so, are you managing to get the right quality short-horns and the number that you need?
Aye, there's a fair variation in the short-horns. You can. I don't like them just. Well, some of the short-horn breeders would go for a very maternal type one, maybe a slightly deeper kind of bull, maybe hardly so fleshy, but it's all very well breeding the heifers, but you must sell the steers as well, so I like a more middle-of-the-road one with a wee bit more shape to him maybe, and watching the figures for the milk and that as well, you can.
Mm-hmm. And if we can get a little bit individual here, can you recall me a bull that you bought, the cheapest thing you ever bought that bred really well, and likewise the dearest because it never bred anything? If there's any particular ones you want to single out?
Well, certainly a bull that bred very well for us home here, and we got lot of nice show type calves with them. For we show quite a few beasts at our local shows here. It was a very modestly priced bull I bought at Thinston one time, called Emsley's Auctioneer, and from Harry and Linwin, and he bred extremely well for us, and he was bought at an extremely modest price, shall we say. It's not always sometimes the deer bulls that breeds the best sometimes.
I'm right in thinking that a calf off of that one, didn't it go back into the show circuit and maybe won a prize? Was it at Stars or at Thinston? Somewhere did a show calf back from that bull?
I think we had calves that did quite well at Thinston off him anyway, okay? And I've a bull at the moment that I bought in Carlisle, a bull bred by Proctor's down there in North England, and Proctor's Ryan after Hamlet, and we're very delighted with the calves of him. And I think he was about 4.5, if I remember, something like that. But you can, as I say, you just need to try and get a bull that you think will nick with your cows as well as possible.
Yeah, and you mentioned a few show calves, of course, that you've bred yourself, and there will be a lot of show calves. In fact, going back the way you mentioned Harry Emsley, Harry Senior, I think won Smithville with a Orcadian show beast going back into the middle 80s, I would say. But there'd be still be a lot of decent show calves that would come out of Orkney, and people there looking for them. And there'd be, I suppose, you'd be the agent to finding those and shipping them back down the way. Liam, you're on both sides of the camp.
Quite a few of them goes down now, like Balfour Bailey does quite well at the Lakes of Aberdeen Spring Show and things like that, and September Spectacular. But we've sold quite a few show calves that were going on well. My son-in-law Sean at Allenfold and his dad Archie did quite well with a steer and a heifer that they bought off me here the other year. We got some quite nice tickets down in Carlisle and at the Scottish Winter Fair at Lanark after that. And Harry Brown from Auchmalady was steer champion at the Christmas Classic with a steer we bred here a couple of years ago as well. So and Jim Peters, the late Jim Peters from West Bog, quite a character was Jim. He won Forfar with a bullock that we bred as well. So we're always been trying to breed something nice.
Sure. And I picked up a snippet somewhere on you, Liam, that you run a lot of cattle yourself and shift a lot of cattle in and out. It takes a lot of paperwork, but you're not a man for the computers. And do you not get somebody else involved to do your paperwork for you?
Aye, well, SAC in Kirkwall, they have offices just right across from the market in Kirkwall, and I would buy cattle for myself here, put them on the grass. The SAC picks up the passports. I give them the numbers the day, maybe the weekend before they go off. I would never handle the passports at all. They do my IACs, things like that, and for all the few £100 it costs, I think it's great value, and things is done properly and when it should be, and it takes a lot of pressure off us to get on with the business and farming as well.
A lot of farmers would be very envious that you had somebody that local, that efficient, that can handle that, because paperwork obviously is a huge part of the job and getting harder and harder. And if I can talk about, before we run on to a few stories maybe about Orkney, talk about just more recently the rising costs of everything there and the cost of fertiliser coming back across the way there, and everything having to come in by boat in and out there. Is it starting? Is it affecting you guys maybe more because your cost of your transport is going to get higher as well as your cost of your shipping coming in and out there? Are you feeling the pinch?
Well, the fertiliser is dear, but the fertiliser cost, it wouldn't be so bad for. They can land whole boatloads of fertiliser here direct from the factories, whether it's on the continent or wherever the fertiliser's coming in. They can just take a whole boatload into the docks in Kirkwall and unload it. So we're not really paying that much more than the fertiliser would be doing in mainland Scotland due to the fact that the boats come straight in. But if they've come up by lorry and things like that, it can add considerable to the cost.
And the cost of feed is a similar thing. You said you're fairly self-sufficient.
Yeah, but there would be, obviously protein supplements, minerals would all have to come in, a certain amount of stock feed, nuts and things like that. You can dairy feed, and it would certainly add maybe £30 to £40 a tonne at least onto everything.
Mm-hmm. And
maybe 50 quid.
Couple that with shifting animals back out there, it eats into the margins, doesn't it?
Yes, and obviously the transport costs for taking livestock out, and even from the outer islands, it could cost them 25 quid to put a beast in from, say, Westry into Kirkwall to sell, and then another 20 quid to put that beast down to Aberdeen. It's you're starting to amount a lot of cash again.
It does start to mount up a little bit on the cost of those at the moment. Those shippings, of course, won't be going down. It'll be going up the way with the price of fuel and everything else. And just move on to the show side of it. You've been a man that's been involved in the showing circuit. You've judged just about everywhere in the country. The British Isles, probably more, I guess. But you have your own show there on Orkney. In fact, you have a couple of shows there on Orkney. I think there's a show on Shappen's Days or not, and there's certainly the county show in Orkney, and that's a fantastic affair, isn't it? And you'll be highly involved in that.
Well, I'm a vice president of the county show at the moment, but we have a whole week of shows. It starts the previous Friday with the Sandy show in the North Isles, and then on the Saturday it's the East Mainland show, and then on the Tuesday it's the Shappensea show, Wednesday is the South Ronaldsay and Bury show, Thursday's the Doonby show, which is our local show that we show at, and then everything comes together then on the Saturday again then for the county show.
And the Sunday you'll all have a headache, I'd imagine.
A very big headache usually, yes. I'm very tired.
I've been at the county show, and it's a fantastic event, isn't it? I mean, the quality of the stock and the numbers of stock as well. You guys get big numbers in there, and you normally get judges from afar, and some fantastic shows, classes of stock.
Well, the difference is like all the in the run up to the county show, you're showing it. Your confined show, you can the only show we can show it is Doonby. Every show is confined to their own area, and then we all come together on the Saturday at the county.
Right.
And we show, well, most folk shows fair numbers. It's different from the show seen down in mainland Scotland, whereas the same few beasts could be out every Saturday at a show somewhere. We only have that two chances: our local show and the county show to show it. You can. So I'm seen as put on anything up to, I think the most haltered cattle we ever showed at one time was about 16 or 17 maybe, and then we would cut that down maybe to a dozen or so for the county show then on the Saturday. But it enabled you to, because there was a lot of specials for groups and things, 4 calves or 3 cattle bred by exhibitor, all that kind of stuff you can, so that it allowed you to enter a lot of that. We'd put calves, yearlings, and maybe an old breeding beast as well, you can.
But straight away that gets the listener to realise that it's not just a few cattle turning up the county show, really is. You're talking hundreds of cattle there, aren't you? Big classes.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, I noticed in the Scottish Farmer a few weeks ago they were featuring Duncan Semple from Dippon there, and he judged the commercial cattle, some of them at the county a few years ago, and he said that he thought it was a wonderful show, and he would go every year if it wasn't so far away, he said. So I thought it was praise indeed coming from a man of his calibre.
Yeah, certainly, and you've had some recognised judges certainly up there over the years, and rightly so. They all come away with awe of the cattle are there, and then most of them with a hangover as well. It's not quite the Whiskey Olympics, I've been told. Somewhere else is that, but it's a good drop of Highland Park that goes along with the show.
Well, Orkney's always been famous for its hospitality.
I was fortunate to be over there with staying with my friend Richard Zavadsky at Balfour-Mains when I was there, and great hospitality I had from there. It's sadly no longer there, but
the first time I was supreme champion at the county show, and I won the county 3 times, and the first time was with a black Limousin Cross steer bred by Richard.
At the county show, that was one win there. How did the other two wins there go? It's a great achievement winning those. Well,
we won it the year that Cameron Stout won the Big Brother house competition, you can. We showed a very good black steer that year called Cameron, and he was also very friendly with a young lady that was in the Big Brother house with him called Steph. And the one year we won the Doonby show on the Thursday with a lovely roan Limousin Cross yearling heifer named Steph. And then we went on and won the county on the Saturday with a black Limousin Cross steer we called Cameron, so it was quite appropriate at the time. And then the last time we won was with a nice black Limousin Cross yearling heifer showed by my daughter Alison, and we called it Emily. Emily, you should say, Emily. And it won Doonby, and then it went on and won the county on the Saturday. And I was particularly pleased when it won that day, for it won Interbreed in front of the judge, Neil Massey from Blaylock. And everybody thought, oh, Neil is bound to go for a pedigree beast, but no, he went for her cross heifer, and he said she was the most correct, best moving, best fleshed beast in the ring. And I was extremely proud when it came from a man like Neil.
Like Neil, yeah, indeed. And of course there would be some good Angus cattle on Orkney, some top Angus herds in. I mean, I know we see the Angus boys, Ronnie Sinclair and Colin Davidson, of course, and some top Angus herds there, of course, on Orkney. Some great cattle.
Oh no, they're always Orkney's always been very keen on black cattle.
So we move on to shows, and with the experience that we've heard about already, with you buying bulls, and obviously supplying and showing crossbred cattle there, that take you to become a judge. And I would say you'd probably, I know a lot of judges, people have judged a lot of cattle around about the place, and I can names spring to mind like Ewan McPherson and such like, where they're forever travelling until they're never at home. But Liam, you any idea how many shows you have judged? Because you've been everywhere that I can think of.
Well, I'm judged twice at the Royal Highland. I'm judged 3 times at the Royal Welsh. The first time I judged the commercial cattle there, and the reserve champion in the commercial cattle that day was a lovely little red heifer from Di Thomas, and I was delighted then when she went on and she actually won the Smithfield that year.
I dressed that beast, so I know it well in 93,
I was fair chuffed about that, and also that year I thought their cattle were nicer shaped, they were smart, and I inquired as to who a lot of them was bred, and they'd started using the Belgian blue. It's British blue they call them now, but they'd been using Belgian blue maybe slightly earlier than maybe folk had been doing further north in Scotland. And I went home and I bought 3 Belgian blue cross heifers from a boy that had been dabbling in AI, and one of them was just an ordinary kind of coo. The other one wasn't bad, and the third one was an outstanding breeder, and she would have been the granny of the beast that we won Doonby and the county with, Emily heifer, like. And we just went down that road then. They're trying to breed that kind of limmy Belgium heifer for a cow, like you can maybe 3/4 11/4 Belgium, just to get that extra bit of width in them, you can, and it certainly worked. That was a very worthwhile trip to the Royal Welsh show for me. Like.
Little bit of width in the cows, and there always has been a good show of a good show of all cattle. Let's face it, at the Welsh, as you said, you've judged there 3 times, and a tremendous show of everything, and a cross section of people as well. A lot of Scotsmen down, of course, at that show, and a lot of Scottish cattle down there as well, but you'd have judged in Ireland as well, I think.
I would done 3 summer shows. Did 3 summer shows in Ireland, and quite a few bull sales over there. I judged at Dungannon 3 or 4 times now, and there was Richard Beattie ran that Balmoral bull sales for a wee while. I judged it one year as well, like you can. And some great times. The hospitality over in Northern Ireland is unbelievable. Like, it's always good.
You seem to go to the place where the hospitality is. Maybe they just think you'll come in and tell them a story and sing them a song while you're there, Liam. But certainly, as I said, you get to a lot of events. And the Stars of the Future, of course, will be another one. I think you did. You not just the interbreed of that one.
That as well, yeah.
Good.
Oh no, it's I enjoy showing cattle myself, and I like to think that you try to give good consideration to every class you judge, and I know some judges, if they get the first 3 kind of right, they don't worry about the rest of it too much, but I like to think it's the man that's standing second last in the class, maybe he's good. He would not like to be last either. Like, you must give every beast its good look and its due.
There's up and a down in that one, isn't there? Because very often, if you're the last, the 4 that are thrown at the ring, then nobody has to come last. So I hear what you're saying, but yes, you're right. To do your job properly, you need to place them the whole way down the way, and have a chat with them all afterwards. And I'm sure you've had a bollocking the same as I have, probably by somebody who's maybe thought you hadn't quite done them right.
Oh no, but you must stand your ground. And I was brought up in very much in the Harry Young Farmers Club, and we did a lot of stock judging and reason giving, and you must be able to justify your decisions.
Especially nowadays, of course, they do hand you the microphone, and you need to be ready for that, don't you? And stand and give your reasons before, or certainly give a commentary. These days, it's become more of an audio event, isn't it? Where people like to hear what you're doing before you hand out the tickets.
Well, I certainly have done that at the Royal Welsh. Like I did the groups of 5 pedigree cattle there the one time, and it was quite a spectacle.
That's a fantastic show ring full, isn't it?
I remember the commentator in the control box said to me, "Now, Mr. Muir, we believe that this is the 3rd time that you've judged at the Royal Welsh. Do you think that if we would take you back a 4th time, you'd be able to say something in Welsh for us?" So I says, "I don't know about Welsh." He says, "I struggle with English, and with the dialect." But we got quite a clap and a cheer from the crowd.
Oh well, good job. Now that team of 5 is a good one. And you said you judged at the Highland, of course, Perth bull sales. Well, the Perth bull sales, Stirling bull sales. I think you'd have been man in the middle a few times, a few different breeds, I think.
Oh, Sementals, Angus's. We've done short-horns, so just different Herefords, Salayers. I think we've done most of them. Like, and if you're in the business of buying bulls like what we are, that's the type of jobs you get to do, and we enjoy doing it. We're there anyway.
I suppose so, and of course that gives you perfect qualification to be that interbreed judge that you talked about when you are dealing in and working with 5, 6, 7 different breeds of stock there, and there's very few judges in the country that are as qualified as you to do those interbreed jobs when a lot of people would err towards one breed and then they'd give everything else the time of day, and then it makes it a bit awkward really, but you'd have no bias at all.
No, really, no. You just have to. You want something that looks the part, that has that look at me, look about it. You can, with a smart head, good legs, the fleshing right, and if it's a show, it must be a show animal. It has to look the part as well.
Sure, indeed. And you talk about shows. The other show, of course, that you're involved in, you said with the Scottish Ceilidh group, but you run your own radio show there, or you run a radio show. Have done for a while, I think. There on Orkney.
About 20 odd years, we do a Scottish dance music show in the winter time. In the winter months, the Radio Orkney runs shows from 6 to 7 in the evening, and we do one called, they call it the Dashing White Farmer Show. So it's we've done it now for 20 odd years. But I've played the box and at weddings and dances in Orkney since I was 17, 18 year old. So I'm seeing me taking the box down to the bull sales. I'm seeing some fair Ceilidhs going in the front bar of the Waverley some nights with the box going.
There'll be a few people remembering that as soon as you mention it, and of course there'll be hopefully no videos. Hopefully there were some videos maybe, but I think what goes on tour stays on tour when it goes to the bull sales.
I think in that, going back in that days, there was nobody with mobile phones with cameras in them in that days. Probably just as well.
Thankfully so. Yes, I can vouch for that myself there, for some of the antics that we got into, and great crack and great there. And Leah, moving on to your family life, you've got a number of daughters, and I think they're all married back into the farming industry as well. They're not going to run away, are they?
Oh no, they're the 2 daughters are married south. Alison, the oldest daughter, she's married to Andrew Dunlop at Costane at Bigger among the Bell, Texas. She has a little boy and a little girl. And then Jennifer, the middle lass, she's married to. She's the only one that's married to an Orcadian, and but he's a farming stock as well. And though he isn't a farmer himself, an engineer, but they have 2 little boys. And then Bryony's married to John at Allenfold, and she has the 2 boys and a girl. So we enjoy seeing them when we're down south at sales as well. I usually stay with them at Allenfold when I'm doing it the Stirling bull sales. It's only a quarter an hour, 20 minutes from the market, so it's quite handy. Yeah,
and John and Archie have been on this podcast in the past, and I think John and Brian have got some. The youngsters rather have got a few pedigree sheep themselves and some badger faces. Would that be right?
Oh yeah, so they love their stock. They're always out about the stock at nights when they come home. Well, like Matthew's only one that's at the school so far, but they're certainly out about the livestock plenty when they get half a chance, and they're always out about when they come up here as well. And John, it's handy, I used to do all the clipping, all our show calves and cattle for the shows myself, but since John came on the scene, he's been helping me out with that. I just do the heads and the rough stuff, and he puts the final touches on, which is grand as well.
Leave the professionals to it, yeah, fair enough. That's nothing to do with them being better, that's just you being lazy, isn't it?
Well, I'm getting older, I suppose.
Older, that's the word I'm looking for. and I mentioned sheep there just now, and is that something you get involved in? I mean, you said that Orkney's maybe not it has a lot of sheep, but there's a lot of good pedigree sheep on there. Do you get involved in the sheep, or are they vermin to you?
Well, I used to keep pedigree sheep. We used to breed a few pedigree border Leicesters first I started farming, but then when we used to keep a commercial use again with a few Texas among it, but the sheepdog died, the farm bike died, and the 3 daughters went off to university, so that kind of finished the sheep enterprise. But I think Machine and my wife, she still misses. I think she misses the sheep a bit. Sometimes she enjoyed the lambing and that, and she's a very skilled stock woman as well, which works quite well.
Yeah, well, I think anybody that Mrs. Lammin is misguided, to be fair. The few years that I've had when I haven't been lambing, I always thought, bloody hell, I can go on holiday during these few months instead. But, so Liam, you got a few stories for me? Anything along the lines?
Oh, well, just, I could probably fill up another two programs with the stories, but, well, the one thing that always amused me was the year that Orkney won, in 1981, we won Glasgow Herald Trophy, the Orkney stock judging team at the Highland Show, and we beat Clyde and Central by 2 points, I think. And there is a rumour that 2 of the Clyde and Central members of the team were so disgusted to be beaten by a place like Orkney that they burnt their white coats outside the headsman's bar. And I know both of them. Well, both of the boys that were supposed to do it, I know quite well. But there was a rumour that was the case, like. But we won. I was in the Harry team that won the senior speech making competition, national senior speech making in 1980, the year before, and I always get it on him every now and again. But I think Perth was second that year with David Leggett in the team, and I think third was Mauchline, with my great friend of mine, the late Jack Ramsey, was in that team. Okay. So we were in some quite good company there. I
think Fletch was in Jack Ramsey's crowd as well, wasn't he? So yeah, you would be definitely in amongst the good company there. And the speech making thing, of course, for young farmers is a fantastic thing.
But it's been great to see the transition, like from the old mart at Perth through you came to Hunting Tower to Stirling now, and well, Carlisle getting a very important centre now as well. We've seen the breeds changing, we've seen the markets changing, and it's been a great experience to be there and done it, you'd say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed, and still doing it. I mean, I know you were down at the last Stirling I was at. There, you were there. You were judging the Herefords that day, I think, and buying a few bulls. You're still back down there every time with a order book full.
Oh well, we try to any way you can. We try and give the customer what he wants anyway. That's the main criteria to follow.
And you getting a decent bit of spring weather up there at the moment. We've got an east wind coming here. You guys would be used to the bit of wind coming across Orkney.
Oh yes, we're well set up for the wind. Our buildings is designed to withstand the gales that we can get here pretty well. But it's been some quite decent days. If I can, I had to go and off and pick up some calves to deliver to some folk today. But I'm hoping to get a clear day now at the end of the week. I might get some dung out. We do some farming as well, you know.
Of course. And what number of acres are you farming? Just remind me.
Well, it's 120 acre up at Midhouse, our original place we still have, and then it was about 40 acre that we bought down here at Aberonston, but we've added additional land off 2 adjoining places to take it up to 120 acre as well, plus some peat hill and peat banks. If fuel gets dear, we'll maybe be back up cutting peats yet. Maybe, I don't know. But it might come in handy for a bit of carbon capture yet, maybe.
Could do. Certainly could do. Well, Liam, I'll let you get back to cutting that peat then, and very much enjoyed your company and your chat, and to our listener, if they want to tune into BBC Radio Orkney for your Dashing White Farmers radio show with a few reels and a bit of Scottish traditional music, fantastic. And Liam, thanks very much for your time, and thanks for chatting to us at Top Lines and Tales.
Oh, well, no bother about it. Okay, thanks. Cheerio.
Thank you for listening to this week's Top Lines and Tales podcast, again kindly sponsored by Harbro, suppliers and manufacturers of quality livestock nutrition and nutritional advice, and of course other agricultural inputs as well. And during these uncertain times of spiralling input costs and volatile markets, why not have a word with Harbro and discuss your feeding plans either directly with them or with your local representative, who of course can be found on harbro.co.uk's webpage or on social media such as Facebook and others. And you can, of course, find Top Lines and Tales on social media, on Facebook, Twitter and various other places. And on Facebook you will find some photographs, hopefully to back up this and other episodes.